Bam.
This is Colin Denker, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
It was awesome. I did a show earlier and then did two different shows in between for other people's things. I am just about talked out. And so I'm looking forward to shutting up and letting you do all the hard work today, Colin. Thanks for coming on the show, man. I appreciate you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
The sailing world is a place that I didn't realize the show was going to take me, but because of mutual friend Scott Shipman, I've met a lot of incredible sailors, and just I don't know if you know Ronnie Simpson, but he's been on the show a couple of times and just has the most amazing tales to talk about what it means to solo sail and take on these challenges that really we think like it's easy, it's sailing, but he demasted out in the Pacific and was working desperately with his wife to save his life because he was the race he was doing on the super high end yacht was over, and it was all about just getting rescued. And only because things worked out in the last possible chance that he did get rescued, and so he wouldn't have made it otherwise. And it's crazy to think that in this day and age, with satellite technology and everything else, you still may not come back from a solo sail. So we and just so happens the same summer, last summer, my buddy Brian was going to do a row from Boston to London, and that's four people or four rowers. I think it was four on his little tiny boat in the ocean, and that seems a little more hazardous. But it was pretty much a foregone conclusion that they would make it. They also didn't make it and had to get rescued and had to abandon the boat. So even in this day and age, I think it's important for folks to realize this is no gentle adventure to take a boat out on the big blue water.
Wow. Yeah, rowing is like a whole different, ball of wax. Um, yeah, I think I do. I wouldn't go if I thought I wasn't going to make it.
Right.
I have pretty good confidence in, like you said, today's technology and communications. At the same time, I get some comments on the YouTube video of my crossing of people trying to shame me for risking spending like public money on a rescue. This is too hazardous. Who
Hmm.
pays for it if he has to get rescued? Obviously, I don't go out there with the intention to get rescued.
Right.
Um, but no,
Yeah.
in yeah, I don't think it's. I mean, it's such a hard. The risk is so hard to quantify, but
Mm.
but I don't. I'm well, like I said, I wouldn't go if I didn't have a pretty high level of confidence that I was gonna make it to the other side, or maybe turn back. But
Yeah, yeah. And Ronnie Simpson was in a race, and so you're out doing things, but masts can snap and all these other things that can happen. Richard Reeves was telling me because he did a solo. I don't know if you know Richard's game, but he went from San Francisco all the way down the coast of South America and then went around Antarctica and then up the east coast of the United States, over the top of Canada and back down to San Francisco.
wow,
And yeah, crazy, right? Like what a crazy thing to do.
yeah,
And he is taken by this solo sailing idea, and he tries to keep and live a calm life, but he's drawn to these challenges that have happened. And he was saying, sometimes when you have to go deal with a problem because you're the only person there, you haven't had enough sleep, you're trying to fight in this storm or whatever it is, you can't just simply clip into all of your safety gear to move to the front of the boat or wherever the problem is, like you do your best, but you just don't have enough. You don't have enough energy, you don't have enough time. You have to take some of these matters into your own hands. So yeah, you don't want to get caught out somewhere, but the endeavor is still pretty dang dangerous in a given moment. I asked him and another guy, um, you know, like how many times did you come close? You're like, I may not make it through this. And they're like, oh, it's like every single time, like it happens a lot. And then you get through it for whatever reason. But the things that we would think would be normal and safe aren't the things that you guys are talking about. You guys are in control until the instant when I guess you're not, and you're all around still. So it is dangerous, but it's in a danger that you guys are willing to. What is it fair to say to mitigate, to master? What are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you manage that?
well, so the first thing that comes to mind is that they're really passages are not all created equal. Um, doing what I did and going from California to Hawaii is
Yeah.
about, for a long, for crossing over maybe 1,000 miles or something like that, it's
Hmm.
one of the more reliably uneventful routes. If you just don't go at during
Right.
hurricane season, it's pretty predictable wind. It's not the Southern Ocean. Um, so there's that. It's doing something like that's very different than even probably crossing the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, uh, definitely, definitely compared to something like the Indian Ocean.
Right.
Um, so there's that, and then there's also, I mean, people go out with varying levels of preparedness, and I went out without maybe a lot of, I had no experience sailing on the ocean, really. I had done Washington to San Francisco. That was my first time on the ocean. So a lot of people would tell you, you need to go with other people a lot of times first
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
really learn the ropes. No pun intended. Before you do something like that, what I tried to make up for my lack of sailing experience with making sure the boat was as prepared as possible and having a lot of redundancies. And I had kind of a, in some cases, like a laughable event. You see people go out um, without a life raft or without any backups for anything, and I had a backup for everything. I had backup
Right.
solar,
Right.
a backup battery, multiple um, communications kind of backups. I had 2 AIS units, um, lots of, I had a little pharmacy,
Hmm.
which leads me to my other point is that the risks, I think, are sometimes everybody thinks about getting dismasted or getting run down by a ship or something. So I worry more about, um, you know, when you're alone, if you get a really bad stomach bug that could incapacitate you.
Right.
See, those are the risks I think about, or like things like that. That when you're alone, anything that risks your ability to operate the vessel, and just do what needs to be done, be it, yeah, something like that. One of my mentors had an experience. Mentor, did I just say men? Yeah, mentor. Um, he had an experience where he got a random. I think it was a fish had kind of just a small cut on his leg,
Hmm.
um, and it got really nastily infected. And again, something like that, if you're out in the middle of nowhere and no one else with you and you don't have the right medicine to take care of something like that, um, something as simple as like a little gash somewhere, could give you major problems. uh,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's part of this whole managing risk. My buddy Brian, that was going to do the row from Boston to London, had cascading failures that took out multiple systems on a rowboat. Right? Like this is, you don't expect it. And one of the things was when it's just, Brian's thorough. He knows what he's doing. He runs a rowing studio. He knows all this stuff. But one of the challenges is the system that holds the rollers on the bottom of the seat so that you can row back, do the thing when you're rowing.
sure.
Well, those screws had kind of worn themselves out and then, started falling out. And so they start, and the seat doesn't fail at that point. It continues to work, but it does compromise the integrity of like the really like rollerblade wheels going
Mm,
back and forth. So they start to flex and then they start to come apart. And so unless you know that the seat has this problem, which you don't anticipate. I mean, you could say, I've looked at every screw on this thing. You could look at the thing and still see that those screws are in there. They have integrity, right? And that wasn't the case. And so that was one failure. But then his nav system failed. And he's like, I went to pros who run the boat things and they know how to wire everything. And the electronics started failing. And then, like unforeseeably, his he gives us like his nav beacon that says, "Hey, we're here. We're a tiny vessel. Can you see us?" That thing failed, and so you had like all these different failures. Like you couldn't have anticipated this array of failure, And look, he did a good job. He's the captain, right? He's like, all right, well, we're just gonna call the Coast Guard in, and I'm aborting the mission and leaving his tens of thousands of dollars rowboat to drift
Mhm.
in the ocean, and they
Mm.
ultimately got it back, but you can't count for that. And so even if you take on all these responsibilities and you look at every detail, there's just things just happen. The ocean, the ocean is even if it's just to Hawaii, right? The next guy that loses his boat going to Hawaii won't be the first or last guy to have that happen. It is a thing that there is risk for it, but yeah, is sailing from the West Coast to Hawaii, is that akin to just driving a car 3,000 miles? I mean, is it that simple?
No, it's not. It's definitely not. But I do think that it's not as um, I don't know, as staggering of a feat, as some people make
Right.
it out to be.
Yeah.
Um, it's not climbing Everest. Um, Not that I've done that,
Hmm.
but I've driven across the country. It's definitely harder than that. It's I think there's so much to it. It's one thing that a lot of some people would say. I think getting the boat ready is harder than doing it because it
Right.
requires there's like a stamina thing. Um, there's an endurance thing with the preparation and the sail itself, um, especially when solo. And in a lot of cases, you're kind of doing both solo, managing the refit process to get a boat ready to do something like that is
Hmm.
just untold hours and blood, sweat, and tears, and a lot of dollars, and takes a long time and takes a lot of know-how, and you got to teach yourself things, and you every project, everything you try to replace turns into three because
Right.
you find other things that get related. And that part takes a lot of kind of mental endurance, and then you get out there, and that was the biggest challenge for me. Was like maybe it was halfway through or so.
Hmm.
I nothing had gone wrong really, and I remember thinking, okay, I'm starting to see what this is all about, at least on an uneventful passage like mine, where the hard part is the endurance.
Mm.
It's the never being off the clock,
Right.
and not being able to, tap out for. I remember one night just getting, really frustrating conditions, not sleeping well, and just thinking, 10 minutes. If I could have 10 minutes where somebody else was in charge, if I could just hit a pause button
Yeah.
and, the not have to mind the wind or the waves or what the boat was doing or anything. Yeah, just having no pause button after, a couple weeks. It's a hard thing to communicate, or to
Hmm.
to imagine. It was something I didn't really think of ahead of time. I mean, obviously, you try to prepare for a long time. I think in my mind, what I was preparing myself mentally for was like boredom and loneliness, and thinking that those were going to be.
Hmm.
I didn't really think so much about, yeah, the effects of being on the clock for such a sustained period.
Yeah.
It's just mentally
Yeah.
exhausting.
Right. 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 Because you are everything, right? You the ones that has to prep the food, clean up from the food. You're the one that has to mind the lines, everything. It's all on you. And yeah, I was another one of the guys is a guy named Rand, and he Jerome Rand. He was saying that like his water purification system failed, and he was trying to capture water off of sails and everything. Then he hit some doldrums in the Indian Ocean, and it was just it was just a lot of things where he was like, "Do I need to keep doing this?
Mm.
And should I just head towards the coast and not do?" Because a lot of this stuff's kind of like playing golf by yourself. Like yes, you're abiding the rules, but if you foot wedge something, who's gonna know, right? Like and so when you're in the doldrums, like I might dehydrate out here because I don't have a way to get fresh water. Boy, like all of a sudden, this is kind of a dumb thing to stick my neck out for. But
Mm.
also, yeah, who else is going to do this? And then, yeah, you do get those deliriums. You get the sunsets and the sunrises that are beautiful and everything, but you also get the cost of, yeah, like I haven't slept in 2 days because of storms, and I'd like someone else to do the dishes tonight, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's the hard thing about something like what Jerome did, or any of these kind of, if you sail to Hawaii, you don't have really a bailout option
Right.
beyond, maybe the first couple of days. I mean, it's debatable, but turning around and sailing back into the wind at a certain point becomes, you know, uh, it's very different. There's a reason nobody ever goes that way.
Right.
It's going against the wind is a whole different animal. So,
Yeah.
maybe within the first few hundred miles, but you got to imagine, right? If you're halfway, you definitely want to just keep sailing downwind to get the other half done. At what point do you cross that line of it'd be easier to keep going?
Yeah.
I don't know where exactly that line is, but
Yeah.
point being, yeah, it's a lot, you know, that was actually for me like a helpful idea was that, hey man, yeah, this might be really hard, this might suck, you might be this or that, but um I knew that, yeah, at a certain point you're just in it and you're not going to have a choice, and I kind of like to put myself in those positions. I think it'd be a lot harder for me to do what Jerome did and have the option to, you're
Hmm.
skirting by land every so often, but you have this
Yeah.
big goal to just keep going. That's another level of endurance to be able to, you know, like a good example I think is which silly, but illustrative, or whatever that word is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
eh, you know, uh, rationing. You know,
Yeah.
I've heard the advice. I'm really bad at discipline around food
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
sweets in particular. So
Yeah.
I was told, hey, would just bring whatever amount of chocolate you don't mind eating in one day, because that's what you're going to do.
Right.
If you try to bring enough to, have a little snack every day or something like that, it's just not. Some people could do that, but I
Yeah.
can't.
Right.
So it's the same thing. It was like,
Hmm.
if you told me don't eat sweets for 3 weeks on land,
Yeah.
I can go to the store and just get some, right? But you know, I if you don't bring them and you get on a boat and point it towards Hawaii, you're
Yeah.
you're not going to eat them. So
Right.
anyway, I did bring. I brought enough chocolate to have like one little tiny thing a day, and it was gone in 48
Yeah.
hours. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. When you realize that you have this soloing bug, because it's one thing to say, me and my friends were going to sail to Hawaii, and that's a thing in and of itself. Like, who'd be good at that? Who has the time?
Mhm.
Oh, this person's insufferable, and we can't just throw them overboard. We have to suffer them, even though they're insufferable. So, there's that side of it. But the soloing thing is a different thing, and there's something that calls you. It's like the top of a mountain that,
Mhm.
that calls people, or these long swims. Like, you know what, I could swim this. Like, only certain people think that way. I love swimming, right? But I don't look at like an opening like between Catalina and the coast of California and go, I need to swim that. Like I think, oh, that's neat that they can do it, but I'm not doing that. So, how did you realize that you had the soloing bug?
Um, so I think for me it was a YouTube video that I saw. A guy named Sam Holmes. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I've not heard of him. Huh?
He's you know, he's about my age, I think. And I probably saw the video, I don't know, 6, 7 years ago when it first came
Yeah.
out. And I hadn't even started sailing yet. And he sailed from Los Angeles to Hawaii on a 23-foot boat,
Hmm.
quite small. And I was just, completely entranced the whole time. And to this day, it's probably my favorite video on YouTube. I've seen it a whole bunch of times,
Hmm.
and I would use it as like inspiration, fuel or whatever, and just keep watching it periodically. And um, for me, it was just it looked amazing, and I was just incredibly curious what it would really feel like, because you just know that the video is not going to tell you how it really feels.
Right. Right.
And it was just a curiosity thing. And I was talking to my brother about it recently. I don't know what it is that, you know, y- I, sailing across an ocean with other people sounds like it could be fun. For some people, I think that's a really fun experience.
Yeah.
When I put them myself in their shoes, it sounds great. The reality, like you kind of hinted at, was okay, who can actually take off for 3, 4 weeks? Who can
Right.
I stand to be in a tiny place with for so long?
Right.
Who
Yes.
and the departure thing, the time off thing is further complicated by the fact that it's weather dependent. So
Yeah.
you're like, hey, take off a month, and it might take us a month to actually leave. So just be ready to just disappear for a
Right.
month in this window. It's really difficult, and yeah, so
Yeah. Yeah. It's a hard thing. And then again, I've got my boat in Hawaii, and someone needs to sail this boat back. You know, and that's funny. So I did a show with a historian who was looking at, and he wrote a book about the thing called the Valletta, and it was basically these Spaniards that were going to sail from Mexico to really the Philippines, Japan, and then back. And
Mm,
no one had ever done that in recorded history. And
mm,
and why would you? Because it's super hard. And they were already going to leave some of the boats in Japan. They're like, this dumb boat is not coming back. It's not worth it to do this because it's really, really hard. And so that dumb boat wasn't even provisioned. And this is almost immediately the boats get scattered by a storm.
mm,
And there's just no reliable way back then. There's certain techniques they would use to find each other, but if you don't, it's like, yeah, well, we didn't. And so the boat that wasn't supposed to do the whole round trip ends up being the one that takes off first and is the first one to ever do it.
mm,
Didn't have enough of anything. And so by the time they get there, they're all naked. The sail is made out of whatever clothes they had left. There's a storm that damn near kills them as they're approaching Mexico, and it's like this impossible endeavor. But part of it was the thing about going east in that part of the ocean was extraordinarily hard,
mhm,
and it led to a court case, and they were like, "You guys violated all the rules and everything," because they weren't with the commander, and
mhm.
so it's like we're gonna stretch your guys' necks. Like it ended up being like they were gonna kill these guys, but it's crazy all the things that can happen. And this is 500 years ago, so different times and everything, but. Um, yeah, that story is impossible, but yet it's also very like realistic in that it's hard to go, in this case, to the east across the Pacific Ocean from that part of it. You can do it. It's hard to sail back from Hawaii. People do it all the time, but that's another commitment to this whole like, hey, let's all sail together. We had a
Right.
person in my world was offered a slot to sail a boat back, and he's like, I'd love to take off time from work, but it's just the wrong week. I've got a real life, and it wasn't many things, but it was like enough small family things like I can't miss this, I can't miss that, so I can't do this incredible thing. And then, by the way, it's people who don't know, if you wanted to sail back from Cabo to Seattle, you just put your boat on a truck. That's what you do. You don't sail north like that because it's just so hard and so time consuming. You're better off spending the money having a ship carry your boat or something like that. And that's counterintuitive to us non-sailors.
Yes, some people do it, but it's an unpopular method. I think probably more people sail to Hawaii and then sail from Hawaii to Seattle than sail up the coast. I mean, I'm pulling this out of thin air. I don't know who
Right.
the
Right.
actual percentages, but
Yeah.
because the main point is you just want to be able to sail with the wind behind you as much as possible. So the wind is basically always coming down the coast. Going
Hmm.
back up, it's miserable.
Yeah.
But you can sail to Hawaii downwind, and then from Hawaii you can sail up. Kind of, you have to go up and around. Usually, you know, um, there's a high pressure. They call it the North Pacific High. There's an
Mm.
area of kind of dead wind that stays more or less in a certain region,
Hmm.
and and the wind is blowing to the west on the south. It kind of blows clockwise around the high. So
Hmm.
you figure that thing is kind of between Oregon and Hawaii. Going to Hawaii, you go on the south side of that high, and you have the wind behind you. And the same is true coming back. You can go up around the north side of it and keep the wind behind you that way.
Hmm.
Um, but it makes it a longer trip, and brings you up into higher latitudes. It's
Yep.
colder, it's gray, it's wet, and there's more, on the south side, you're kind of in the trade winds. It's usually
Right.
pretty nice, maybe squally, but warm. And on the northern side of things, it's a little bit more
Yeah.
unpredictable. So,
Yeah. Yeah. And not a lot of places to stop, you know.
nope, not really. No, not
Even
like,
if you see something that looks like, oh, we could go there, then you get there and you're like, get away from here.
yeah.
It's not the place to stop. Yeah, and all that stuff fascinates me about this whole thing about solo sailing and trying to withstand what's out there. But there's something that does call to you guys. In this case, you had a video that kind of, got you going in that direction. When do you feel comfortable enough to say I am going to sail from Seattle to San Francisco by myself? Or like, how much capacity do you need? Because you're going to learn to become a better sailor the rest of your life, right? When do you know enough to risk something like that?
I think it's kind of like the whole, what's something worth? It's worth what somebody will pay. It's kind of the
Hmm.
same thing where it depends on the person. A lot of people go out and they're not prepared, and as I can only talk about my case,
Hmm.
and I was terrified to do it, truly, and I had very little experience. I'd been sailing for 4 years ish, but
Hmm.
most of that time, it's summer sailing only, so it's not like I spent 4 years doing something all the time. It's in the summer only, and most of those summers I was working on the boat more than sailing it.
Hmm.
Um, I know, at some points I started like logs of my sailing time and would just forget to do it. And I couldn't tell you like how many days of sailing I had under my belt,
Hmm.
but a lot less experience than most people
Right.
single handing offshore. And all the sailing I had done was in pleasant weather in protected waters with 1 or 2 foot wind waves.
Yeah.
And um, again, I tried to just make the boat as I tried to educate myself on on what you do in different situations and get the boat as ready as possible and have a lot of redundancies.
Hmm.
And but the truth is, I always say that, yeah, I was totally terrified. Like, it literally kept me up at night for the weeks leading up to that. I was
Hmm.
going to go out in the ocean for the first time, and I was going to do it alone. And the stretch between Washington and San Francisco is notoriously, it's rough. The
Hmm.
weather is bad. There are very few places to duck into. Um, and so, yeah, I didn't know that I was really. I'm a broken record for anybody that's heard me talk about this more than once,
All
but
right. Yeah.
but the only thing I could do, I didn't know for sure if I was gonna have the guts to push off at that when to leave
Hmm.
here, to make it out there, you gotta work your way out of Puget Sound and through the Strait of Juan de Fuca. It takes a while to get out um, to the actual ocean.
Hmm.
So I was doing that in like, little day sails and hopping my way over there. And that, yeah, lots of sleepless nights at anchor halfway between here and that ocean point, and thinking, "Man, are you really gonna do this?" Or I thought I was like 50-50. I thought I might get to that jumping off place and back out. I was
Hmm.
kind of probably secretly hoping I'd have some sort of big failure of something
Yeah.
on my way to there, and that
I
I
mean,
could.
that's a big admission, probably secretly hoping, yeah, but that's the real thing, right? Like this is the challenge. And the next guy that quits is like, it's just not worth it, right? They're right. They're right. It's not worth it. And they're
Yeah.
not going to do it. And then they'll do it when it's worth it if they ever do. But that's part of that struggle. And this has nothing to do with your capability to actually pull this thing off and the conditions. Like that's a different thing altogether.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are right to say, that I was probably wrong to have done it. I probably should have had open ocean. I didn't know if I'd get seasick or not. If you're alone, you
Right.
go out there and you get super seasick, that's not good.
Right. Yeah.
Um, I
Yeah.
assumed I wouldn't because I don't get it here in these protected waters and nice weather.
Right.
And I've seen other people around here even. So I'm like, well, that
Hmm.
doesn't happen to me. I can read in a moving car. I'll probably be okay.
Right.
Um, and but yeah, I could have it could have gone really, really badly. And in some sense, I probably got lucky. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just kept acting as if,
Hmm.
and it was always just one foot in front of the other. Okay, I probably right now I don't feel like I would push off, but I don't have to right now. I just have to fix this thing and then sail today to this next part.
Hmm.
I just kept kicking the can down the road,
Yeah.
and I got to that last anchorage, and I had to, I'm waiting for a weather window, and it didn't look right, and I was again secretly relieved. Okay, I get to kick the can down the road a little bit longer,
Hmm.
and then it suddenly changed, and
Mm.
there were these there was a pair of green berets in a 40-foot boat next to me, and we kind of became fast friends. They were a father-son duo,
Hmm.
and I was hanging out with them, and he goes, "Hey, tomorrow's actually looking all right." And I said, "Really? It didn't look good earlier." And I looked at the weather app and stuff, and he was right. It just completely changed, and it looked as good as you can hope for.
Hmm.
And they were like, "We're going for it." And I was like, "Oh my god, okay." I guess I'll sure, I'm going for it tomorrow. And then tomorrow
Yeah.
morning came, and it still looked right. And I remember just being crazy nervous, and just but I had no more excuses. It was, we're here, the weather's right, the boat didn't fall apart on the way here. uh,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
are you either just gonna say, "No, I chickened out for no great reason except fear," or are you
Hmm.
gonna just try it? And yeah, it's one of those things you look back and I don't know how I didn't want to really push off, but somehow it happened.
Yeah. When did you get over it? When did you start sleeping better and all those things? Like when did it become okay? It's like this sounds to me like riding a motorcycle for the first time and like going, I'm gonna go on the freeway. Man, you get in the freeway and all of the inputs are terrifying. You're like, I've got to get off this fucking freeway. But then you get used to how it feels and you're like, oh, this isn't that bad. But it's just there's so much input that it's terrifying when you first get. And if nobody says, "Hey, give it a second, work your way up," you'll feel the wind moving you around. You're going to be fine. You're not going to fall over.
Right.
But like it sounds very similar. Like that once you get going, you're like, "This is what this feels like." It doesn't feel much different than the. So what is that part of it like?
Well, it's funny you say that because it's not that different. When I was living in the Bay Area a long time ago,
Hmm.
maybe I don't know, in the mid 2000s,
Hmm.
and I didn't know how to ride a motorcycle, but I all of a sudden found myself wanting to, and so I found this Ninja 500 on
Hmm.
Craigslist, and I bought it, and I called my brother who lived in LA, and he knew how to ride motorcycles, and I was like, "All right, how do I ride this thing?"
Yeah.
And he's all right. We'll pull the clutch in, kick it down into
Oh my
first.
gosh. Yeah.
He's like, because I drove, I know how to drive a stick, so I
Hmm.
understood the idea. And he's
Yeah.
like, just you don't need much throttle at first. Just go real slow with the clutch. You get in gear. And so that night, I get on the freeway,
Oh man.
and I'm crossing the Bay Bridge,
Oh my God.
and I I think I did like 100 miles an hour, and then the I felt all of a sudden a gust of wind
Hmm.
blew me like 3 lanes over,
Sure. Sure.
um, all the way to the edge of the bridge, and
Yeah.
that's where I went, "Oh, oh, whoa, 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 I am out of my
Yeah.
element," and I
Yeah.
got to the other side, exited right away, the first exit, got back
Uh,
on, and just limped back across. um, so it's kind of a recurring theme, I guess, but,
yeah.
um, anyway, the first both trips, a similar thing happened where as soon as I got into the quote unquote, open ocean,
Mhm.
I calmed down. Like it was like, oh, okay, here we are. It's the mystery's gone.
Yeah.
We're here, everything's okay. I saw some big, swell bigger than I'm used to. Oh, this is different, but uh, but it's not scary. It's just kind of fun. You go up,
Yeah.
you go down.
Yeah.
I liked it, and so that was fine. It's the evenings that are hardest at first, I think.
Mm.
It's when it gets dark, and particularly if there's no moonlight, if it's low visibility and it's the sounds seem to get louder and you don't really see what's coming at you very well. And um, the first trip I got like fogged in and didn't for some reason didn't expect that. And yeah, it was dark, no moon, foggy.
Yeah.
Um, that's still even in the second trip, it's like each night I felt like each day I'm sort of, you know, dreading, oh, the sun's gonna go down. It's gonna get a little bit scarier. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, the moon makes all the difference. When there's clear skies and a full moon, it was like day sailing. It was really nice. But
Yeah.
when you can't see, and if depending obviously the weather, if it's a combination of kind of stronger winds and stuff, and it's totally dark and you can't see, you just grin and bear it. It kind of just sucks. But
Yes. Yeah, but okay, so this is funny because I have my own Bay Bridge motorcycle story, and
mm,
it goes to the same kind of thing. When you've done dangerous things, you understand like where danger is and where you believe it will be. Like, oh, it's actually right here in this band. So I'm riding back, and I knew there was some weather coming in, and I guess I just had dawdled a little bit too long, and the weather had arrived. And
mm,
so I'm going across the Bay Bridge, and I cannot keep my motorcycle in the same lane. I
mhm,
can't. And it's raining, and it's so windy now that the rain is coming all the way across the Bay Bridge. So, and for anybody watching, when you return from San Francisco towards the east, you're underneath. So I'm underneath. So I'm not getting rained on, but the wind is blowing the rain through the bridge, and there's just an enormous amount of water, and I am on like it's not a ninja bike, it's a thousand, but just a street bike. This is not made for weather. It's a racing bike, and as I'm leaning into this wind, and of course the wind isn't uniform in how it blows, and so I'm like,
right.
ooh, and I would have like I would fight my hardest to stay on one side of the lane so I could slowly get blown across the bridge, so I could fight my way across. And so I was just driving like an insane person until I realized that there was a big rig next to me and also going slow, and I'm going as not as fast as I dare. I'm going as slow as I can
Mhm.
because fast was making it worse. And so I tucked in leeward
There you
on,
go.
on this big rig, and it was just shooting a rooster tail of water into my face and
Ugh.
jacket, just like a fire hose. But it was the one place where I had enough shield. And believe me, I tried to find another spot next to that thing, but that was the spot. So I had to withstand this constant deluge of water, which ruined my phone. Like I was so soaked from it, but it was the one spot where I wasn't exposed to the wind. And you're on there's no out, right? There's no island to get off at. I was stuck, and I'm like, I've never thought I was going to crash like this. Like you might be in an accident and be like, oh man, this is going to be bad. But this was a different thing where I don't know if I'm good enough at riding this thing to
Mhm.
keep it upright, and thankfully, I was going maybe like 30 miles an hour or something, but it was like I was in a hurricane. It was
Mhm.
the craziest thing. But so I guess the point here is I'm stuck in this situation where I have to. One time I rode over Grants Pass on the same motorcycle, and it started snowing, and I'm like, I'll get off at the next exit and just kind of wait out this storm. And there wasn't another exit, and so I
Mm.
was on this Italian street bike with slick tires, and I had to drive again. A truck saved me. It went up the mountain. I just stayed in their tire track and just
Mm.
up the hill. So these things happen where you're like, how do I adapt to this situation? Yes, it sucks to have this geyser of water shot into my face and chest, but it is the only way to get across this particular. Because I was done experimenting with wind and getting shoved around. It was crazy. And I imagine that sailing has a lot of these things where, like, this for sure sucks, but it's the safest way to deal with whatever I'm dealing with right now. Kind of like Richard Reeves saying, I had to unclip and go fix things because if I waited to clip myself when it was safe, I would have been exhausted. I couldn't
Mm.
physically do it. I had to just do the job, accept the risk, and be done with it.
Mm. Yeah. The wind on a motorcycle is a uniquely terrifying experience. It's
Yes.
really bad. When you were telling that story, I was right back there on the Bay Bridge. Oof,
Oh my God.
it's
Yeah.
the worst.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Uh, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of like we were talking about earlier, I think, where it's putting yourself in a position where there's no choice but to get through it. Even
Hmm.
something simple like those, just getting through those nights. What are you
Yeah.
gonna do? You can't control it's a powerlessness, total powerless,
Yeah.
I can't make the sun come up. I can't go to sleep.
Yeah. Yeah. We're making sailing sound terrible right now. So let's like, but there's some
It kind of is.
satisfaction in getting
It kind of is.
uh actually, let me just say this to you. A buddy of mine, Sean Ryan, did one of those I'm super wealthy, super fast yacht races where he jumped in and he's like, I'm going to do the whole thing. And this guy loves sailing, he loves adventure. And you see the video of him on the boat. It's like something out of a movie. You're like, what in the hell are you doing? Like they're kind of everybody watching. They're kind of standing on the deck, but the deck, because of what they do, the deck has these recesses, and so you're standing in like a pocket
Mm,
within the deck, and then he goes out and does his job, and then you just tolerate whatever it is that you have to do because they want to be on a storm because the storm is what's going to make them fast. And
mm,
so just everything is like Ron Howard shot this thing, like there's just water everywhere, the boat is going like this left it,
mhm,
and he's like, I thought I was, and this guy's crazy, right? Like he's broken his neck mountain biking, and still loves mountain biking. And he's like, I thought I was going to go and just like finish the whole race, and I realized I had had enough,
mm.
because it's, these things are very so why what are the good parts about this? Why are we doing this?
That's a good question. That depends on the sailor, I suppose. Uh, I think I might be, there's different types of sailors. I might be a little bit, uh, like a lesser, um, how do I say this? I don't really like to day sail very much. I consider
Okay.
it kind of, it's not worth everything that you get in the boat ready, and just simple things like taking the mainsail cover off and unplugging the shore power connection and
Yeah.
all that stuff. And I hate docking, so it's like we go out and then we have to come back and dock again.
Yeah.
um, and to just go in a few circles, and that's what a lot of sailors, maybe most sailors, live for,
Hmm.
is like going out for the day, um, you know, tagging, jiving, doing whatever, racing. They just get a huge thrill out of that. I actually don't. I get kind of like bored kind of quick.
Hmm.
Like, oh, it's kind of chilly, all this wind.
Yeah.
Where we go, for me, it's about going somewhere, and it's
Hmm.
about the challenge and the solo part and all that. So again, that might be different. And I do tend to find a lot of like ocean sailors somewhat, they're more of them that kind of are more like me that way. I know Matt Rutherford. Um,
No, I don't know that name either. There's a
that
lot
guy
of sailors out there.
that guy's an animal. He's a friend
Hmm.
of Jerome's too. He single-handed a boat a little bit smaller than mine,
Hmm.
around the Americas nonstop,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is gnarly, just crazy. Cape Horn, the Northwest Passage, solo on a tiny boat like that, like a
Yeah.
fiberglass boat, all through
Yeah.
all that ice without stopping. That's
I know, it's so
that
crazy,
that
man.
one. Everyone that's ever met me and talked sailing, they've heard me just go, "Oh my god!" That one
Yeah.
is just incomprehensible to me.
Like that
But
Randall Reeves one, and he's from San Francisco, he's from Tiburon maybe, but when he went around Antarctica, everybody I talked to who knows sailing was like, no, he didn't, and I'm like, I don't know, he said he did. I mean, I did wasn't there, so, but
yeah,
like it seems so impossible that they can't even believe that he even attempted it by himself.
yeah, it's one of those achievements that just boggles the mind. But like
Yeah,
Matt, I've heard Matt Rutherford say the same thing. I don't like to day sail. I don't do that. I would like to go somewhere
right.
far. Um, so I'm trying to remember what your original question was.
Why do we
Uh,
even do this
why
thing?
do we do it? Yeah, for me, it was it's curiosity. I
Mhm.
just wanted to know what it felt like to be 1,200 miles from land
Right.
alone on a boat.
There's a lot of these things though that humans do. Like we collect these things. Like why would you climb Mount Everest? People die up there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. There we go. Why would I swim deeper in the ocean and try to break a meaningless record that no one will care about or have the context to appreciate that I was 105 feet down and the last person, and these people routinely gas out and they die, right? So they have someone there saying, why would you do that? Why would you, all of these things where it gets progressively closer or you take enough chances, that death becomes a real possibility. Like the dude who was the Red Bull guy that jumped out of the spaceship and did the
Mm-hmm.
highest, he died, I don't know, 2 months ago or so. And he
Did
wasn't doing anything crazy, but these things add up into like life where you're like, oh, he was in a experimental whatever, and then the thing, and then he died, or the slackline guys. It's just like, yeah, you can't give up the slacklining until you're slacklining between El Capitan and Half Dome, and then you fall.
yeah.
What is it about us that we catch this fever, that we do this thing that there's never going to be enough of it, and most of us don't meet our demise, right? But there are a certain select people that just can't, they can't let it go. Like it's almost fated that they'll go in this fashion.
Mm. Yeah. Well, wow. There's a lot there. Like the fate thing is interesting because I don't believe in fate. I don't think anything's
Hmm.
preordained or anything. Um, but I feel the sense of it in my life sometimes. And this is one
Hmm.
of those things that felt. I couldn't tell you really why I felt like I had to do it, but I did feel like I had no
Hmm.
choice. It was going to happen. Um, and and I don't know. And again, it might change, it might depend on the person. There's
Hmm.
definitely some like ego in there. There's
Sure.
there's vanity, there's like self-worth stuff, there's filling holes, there's all kinds of um multitude of reasons. It's not for me, I know it's not one single reason, but not all of them are pretty things. There was curiosity, there's adventure seeking, but there's also, I feel like I'd be like a cooler, more impressive person if I'd see people that had done the solo Hawaii. I thought, I'm so impressed by
Yeah.
that. That's so cool. I wish I could say I did that too. I'd love to be able to say that. Um, and I've talked to, Jerome. I remember talking to him about it, and he was like, "No, I don't really think about it that way." It's like, well, now I feel worse. But if I'm going to be honest with you, I do. I like, you know, it's achievement, right? Like you want to. It's some of it's intrinsic. I'd like to think most of it is. It's like I want to prove something to myself.
Yeah.
Um, but I'd be lying if I said I don't. Um, enjoy the idea of people being impressed by some achievement, that I made.
Sure.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, there's a lot to that. And again, whatever I picked certain endeavors that are sort of physically risky, like you can base jump a certain number of times and then you exceed the delta for when it's like, oh, that'd be fine. Like you use up a lot of chances. And also you live in a certain lifestyle where these risks become normal until the point where you just run out of dice rolls.
mhm,
But that's not any different than someone who's a boxer or any other kind of endeavor where it's an inherently dangerous thing, even if that danger is manageable. If you sail, I don't know, let's say 1,000 times, there's going to be some level of injury that's going to happen because it's a
mhm.
physical thing. And that's the question is like, how do you manage that? Like on the mountain climbing guys can just say, ventricular cloud's not going up, not going to risk it, not worth the risk. I'll climb tomorrow.
Mhm.
And maybe that's the same thing as sailing, but it is an interesting thing when we're compelled to do this thing that has our demise as one of the possible draw of the cards, but we go and do it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know, it might sound trite, but driving your car every day on the freeway is
Hmm.
inherent,
Yeah,
that
yeah,
has a good chance of killing you, right? That's like
yeah,
one of the top ways people die. We all do it and nobody thinks about,
sure,
it's a rare thought. I
yeah,
don't, certainly not every time I get on the freeway, I'm like, this could be the last,
yeah.
here we
If
go.
anything, you expect the opposite. You expect to A to B, no problem.
Right.
Like we're just going to A to B today, right now. We're going
Yeah.
to go do it.
It's
I
a
already
foregone
drove
conclusion.
one full trip, so two trips, and in zero instances was I worried about any kind of calamity coming. But
Mhm.
someone in this nation will die driving this equal distance, less than 10 minutes of driving, you know?
Oh, I'm sure several Americans died in car accidents during this podcast recording. I
Yeah.
mean,
Right.
um,
Yeah. 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 And I guess that's the thing, right? Like, because we can all picture what it's like to be like, uh-oh, I'm out of my boat. My boat is on the bottom of the ocean, and now what am I gonna do? We can all picture that kind of outcome. We've seen movies about it. But the
mhm.
reality is you go out and you sail, and sure, there's some excitement in there, but you're just gonna arrive. You're gonna A to B just like any other time.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you for sure. I want to say that, yeah, like statistically, again, that like
Yeah.
uh, it intuitively seems to me like driving your car from LA to New York is at
Hmm.
least as dangerous as soloing.
Yeah.
Maybe not soloing, but I would think so. I mean, if people were dying, more people are solo sailing across oceans than people realize. You
Right.
know,
Right.
it's happening all the time. And when's the last time you heard about a solo sailor?
No.
It
Yeah.
happens. I've known a few in the last few years. But maybe one
Yeah.
or 2 years, something like that. And compared to the tens of that,
Yeah.
it's
Chances are, if Ronnie Simpson had died when he did that solo race, we wouldn't have even heard about it.
mm,
Unless you're in the Ronnie Simpson world, it'd be like, oh, what? A guy died sailing across. Why would you sail across the ocean? What a foolish thing to do. And like, here's this guy is in this world class craft, world class sailor, racing in a race that's designed for, guys like him. And it's far from a foolish thing. It's something that you want to do because he's great at it. He's professional. He's a professional like sailing guy. Like it's an incredible life.
yeah, it's the variety of opinion on how foolish it is an undertaking is funny to me because I made this video about the trip and put it on YouTube, and it's gotten a ton of views,
I
like
could see. Yeah.
way more than I expected, and so it's gotten tons of comments, and so it's everything from uh, you know, you just get both extremes. You get
Yeah.
people saying this is an insane thing to do, this is a irresponsible thing to do,
Yeah.
to like I wanna do this now, or like, I
Right.
wish I had done this, or, I've been
Yeah.
gearing I'm gearing up for this, or and then
Right.
there's the people that are in between that are kinda like, "I'd love to do this, but that looks terrifying," you know?
Yeah.
"It's not for me."
Yeah, I was reading I'm still reading it, a book by a sailor from the early 1900s who was he wasn't so much an adventurer, but he was the guy that you hired to take a boat up to do adventures.
Mm,
And so he was one of the guys on several North Pole expeditions and everything, and real famous guy. But he got offered a boat and he talks about sailing and he's just sailing out of the damn harbor. The stuff that you're like, that's boring. He's like, this machine and the way it moves, he's just so excited about sailing and just knows so much about it. He's so at one with the ocean and all the things he's doing. It does sound remarkable and it makes you think, there is something like if you have that thing in you, it does seem like a wonderful way to live your life is just going places in your boat. But, he was enamored by the boat itself, and so it seems to me that you guys are always either customizing and fixing like Jerome Rand, where he's like, "I've gotta have all these racing grade parts on there," and the sailing shop's like, "What are you doing?" And they don't because his stuff's he's building a custom boat, really, and so you guys must always be in the world of, "How do I improve?" or, "Do I need to change my boat?" And you don't want to, it's not like motorcycles when you can own 40 of them and just put them in a garage somewhere, right? Like those are expensive and they need to be looked after. So how do you manage the progress of a boat? And then when do you say enough's enough? I don't care what I get for it. I'm going to sell it, or whatever. Because that seems to me to be another problem too. Is like you have these things, they become almost unsaleable by anybody else because who needs a boat like this? And even if they did, they would never appreciate the work and the time and everything else, right? So what do you do about the acquisition and sale of boats?
well, so I just got my 3rd boat. Um, so just briefly, I when I started sailing, I bought, like a $2,500 boat on Craigslist.
Right.
And didn't know what I was looking for or anything, just, "Oh, this
Hmm.
it's cheap and it looks okay," and blah, blah, blah. and sailed that, learned to sail on that for a couple of years. And then once I
Hmm.
got serious about going offshore, I learned more about boats, realized this is not the one to do it in. Um, so I sold it and looked around, I actually bought the other one first. I started looking at boats.
Yeah.
Very, very me thing to do. Um,
Hmm.
buy this other boat I found that was capable of going offshore, but it was also cheap, needed a refit, and sold the other one, got the new one, moved it over, and spent a year and change working on it.
Hmm.
And I had it dialed. I mean, I had it good enough when I did the first trip to San Francisco, and then in the Bay Area, I did another round of refitting. And
Hmm.
by the time I sailed that thing to Hawaii, and by the time I got there, especially, it was totally dialed. I had replaced every nut and bolt on that thing, and we just knew how everything worked. I had done it all myself,
Yeah.
and it's a hard thing to walk away from. But and you have a bond, right? Your first ocean
Yeah.
sail, and now a crossing. Having that same boat in a place like Hawaii, having left from Bellingham, is just crazy, and just such a bond. Um, and but the reality was, I didn't want to sail back to Washington alone on that boat, for one.
Hmm.
It could have been done, and I would have considered it, but I didn't want the trip to be over. I didn't want to just end up in Washington again, and wanted to do more ocean sailing. But I work from the boat, and if I'd if I'd continued west, the time zone would have just gotten too crazy for keeping my
Hmm.
my job going. So anyway, I got hip to a boat in South Carolina, that needed a new owner, and it was a bigger, stronger boat. It's kind of a go anywhere boat. My last one was a capable of sailing oceans in trade wind kind of conditions, but it's not like a high latitude boat, and it
Hmm.
was small and crammed a little bit. And um, this other boat was like the logical next step. It's a little bigger, a lot heavier, a lot stronger, and truly kind of a go anywhere. It's the same kind of boat that Jerome,
Right. Yeah.
you
Sparrow.
know,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, same kind of boat, a West Sail 32.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I keep saying I was made an offer I couldn't refuse. The finances made sense, so I decided to sell my other boat and take on the West Sail. So um, yeah, so it's a good time to ask me that question, because I'm right in the middle
Yeah.
of it again, and it is hard to find a new owner for boats. And it was niche, to be in Hawaii with a boat that is really meant for one person to sail
Hmm.
across oceans in. It's a pretty niche product.
Right.
So I just priced it right, and I got lucky, and I got it sold within a week. And now I'm starting the refit process over. And sometimes I like, are you crazy, man? You're so
Yes.
still exhausted by the last one,
Right. Yeah.
to start over. It's a big undertaking, but
Yeah.
the vision is there. The boat is amazing,
Hmm.
and I told Jerome recently that I just keep picturing making landfall in Ireland, and
Hmm.
on this boat, and dialed the way the last one was, and that's enough to keep me going.
Yeah. And then, so you're able to work from your boat basically wherever you're at then.
Yeah, again, the time zone is the only kind of limiting factor. But if I'm in the Atlantic, I basically have to work, kind of office hours on the West
Hmm.
Coast. So
Right.
if I go to the Atlantic, it just means my day starts later.
Hmm.
Um, but going, already in Hawaii is having to get up quite early. And if I'd gone
Hmm.
over to the Philippines or something, I would have been having to start work at 1 in the morning or something. So it just didn't make sense. But I can work from anywhere in the Atlantic comfortably. Um,
Right. Right.
so
And do you have an ocean that you want to try to sail? Like, I really like how the Atlantic is set up or any of that kind of thing.
well, so yeah, the Pacific. I'm not a hot weather guy, and the
Okay.
Pacific is like either Washington, Alaska, Washington, all that stuff,
Hmm.
um, which is great. But then everything else, it's hot. It's all tropical. Hawaii is like kind of the mildest. If you go down to French Polynesia, it's like brutal.
Hmm.
Um, and I gotta say, I'm overall um, probably kind of a city person. I like
Hmm.
people, being I'm very introverted, but I like kind of being around people and
Right.
having access to stuff and go see concerts and ride the train and all that kind of stuff. So um, I look at the Atlantic and it's it's got opportunities everywhere for all kinds of interesting stuff and you can loop it you know to your heart's
Hmm.
content. The Pacific is kind of a one-way highway unless you want to come back up over by Alaska and do that thing. um, there's just not much in the Pacific, and it's all, like I said, kind of a one-way deal. And most of it's really really hot. So to me, like, there's no question. The Atlantic is just so much more appealing, like
Hmm.
the Azores look incredible. I love Spain. That's one of my favorite places. And you can sail there. I've never been up north like UK. I've been to like other more inland countries, but not up to the UK, not to
Hmm.
Iceland. Um, you could, if you get tired, you want to be in your own country, you can go up and down the west or the east coast every year if you want. A lot of people
Hmm.
do that. Go down south in the winter, head up to Maine in summer. There's just so many options, and yeah, for me personally, it works with the work schedule and everything. So I'm very excited to get on the other side and get in the Atlantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny. Again, I'll use Ronnie as an example. He's a professional sailor, and so he's a San Diego guy, California super. Like you see him, you're like, that guy's from California. Like the second you see how he dresses and everything else. But he lives in Maine now because that's where a guy like him goes,
Mm.
is to go do what he does, which might be sailing somebody's boat from here to there when they don't want to sail it back from Hawaii or whatever it is. But yeah, yeah, that's where he's relocated up there because that's where his profession has taken him. And it's funny to think about sailing as a profession in these days because it's like, who gets paid to sail? But yeah, like you need to be a captain of like a big motor schooner. Okay, okay, great. Like we understand that it takes money to run that thing, but apparently the same industry exists for sailing where you hire guys to race your boat, you hire guys to bring your boat back, you hire guys to do all these things. There's only so many guys that do that stuff, but that also is this life-changing thing. And yeah, the where you go to do it is Maine or somewhere in the Atlantic. It's not it's not the Pacific that drives that business.
Yeah, and for some reason, and probably because of the uh, is it circuitous
Hmm.
nature of the Atlantic, that a lot of the training, a lot of the sailing school offshore, they all seem to operate in the Atlantic too. And I think that's
Hmm.
why. I think it's because you can zigzag, you can keep the boat in motion all the time and keep the bunks full.
Right.
Um, and yeah, that's another way you can make money sailing. Some operating these schools. There's a bunch of legends that are like John Kretschmer that are doing that, and
Hmm.
um, yeah, that seems like a really cool career. Go
Yeah.
sail across
I,
an ocean, bring people, make some money, keep the boat happy.
Yeah. I want to direct everybody to we were talking about your YouTube channel, and it's pretty simple, you guys. You just go over and type in Colin's name, but it's just his name, at Colin.Denker, and then you'll see it. And there's the things in there. Are you a YouTuber, or are you a guy who sails who happens to have a really successful YouTube account? Because it looks like you just get a ton of traffic on your stuff.
Well, it's all new. I I don't love the connotation of I don't.
Yeah,
Uh,
right. This is kind of why I asked the question because I would say you're not a YouTuber. You're someone who's put content on YouTube, and for whatever reason, it's landed well, and so that makes you a YouTuber, because people watch your stuff, and
Sure.
that means they want more, and that means you need to make more things for YouTube, and all of a sudden you're like, no, 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 I'm a guy who, like a city guy who kind of likes to be introverted, and I like to sail in the Atlantic Ocean. I'm not a YouTuber, right?
Well,
And surprise,
that's another sailing career that we didn't mention is there's a whole bunch of people,
hmm
YouTubers, sailing YouTubers that are
yeah,
making a
yeah,
living doing it,
yeah.
and I only have 3 videos up there, including the
I know, but still,
tour
they
of the new
kill.
boat that I just put up. But
Yeah,
I initially there's a couple of things. So I told you how much that Sam Holmes video inspired me, right? So
yeah,
I looked up, I looked for other solo sailing long form passage videos, and I've seen them all, basically,
yeah.
because there's only so many. Not a lot of people are solo sailing around, long distance like that, and not all of them make YouTube videos. So there's not a lot out there. And when I did my first trip, I wanted to document it, of course, for my own reasons and stuff, but I really wanted to just add to that pool because I know there's other people like me that junk out on all these videos, and
Yeah.
they want another one, right? So um and the first one got, 40,000 views or something, which is really
Mhm.
not bad for like a first YouTube video, but
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
it wasn't like some big thing. And I assumed this one would do better than that because there's just not that much content like that out there.
Mhm.
But I thought it might double the other one, I thought, oh, if I'm really lucky, maybe like 100,000, and now it looks like it's going to hit 1 million soon, and
Crazy.
it's wild, and it is encouraging. It makes me like, because also it pays, you know,
Right?
and the feeling of getting paid for that is really really nice.
Yeah.
It it feels different than going to a job and getting a paycheck. Um, doing all that work and sailing and recording the video and editing and putting it out there, and something that you would do for free. I didn't expect to make any money. It was a passion project,
Mhm.
and again, wanted to contribute to that pool. And I hoped it was one of those. If you could reach one person, I thought
Yeah.
if one person sees this video and it does for them what the Sam Holmes video did for me, then it's worth it, right?
It's worth it. Yeah.
And but then to do it and have it reach a whole bunch of people and get a bunch of nice messages, and then for YouTube to pay you for that,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, now I understand you know, why people go down this route and become YouTubers. The unfortunate reality is there's all these rules that you have to, if you want a successful channel, then you got to post all the time.
Yep.
That's what I didn't want to do. I never wanted to be like, I don't want to vlog, you know.
Right.
I don't, even making videos about repairs and stuff. I think those are great things to make because they're helpful to people and they're inspiring and they can just be fun, we get a
Mhm.
little
Yeah.
dopamine hit just watching somebody else do work while we're lounging
Yeah.
around. Um, but I've always found the process tedious. I've kind of tried it a couple times, and setting up a
Mhm.
camera and, in the middle of I'm already really like scatterbrained when I'm doing those projects and losing stuff and looking for a
Mhm.
drill bit. And the idea of
Oh,
having to
yeah.
set up a camera every time,
Yeah.
and I don't really like talking to a camera. Um, for some reason, when I'm out on the ocean and I'm sailing, I feel totally comfortable with it um, and enjoy it. It's like having somebody to talk to.
Mhm.
But if I'm like driving to West Marine to pick up some product, and I'm like, hey, so I'm headed to West Marine, I cannot do that. And I really, really don't like it. And
Yeah.
so the question is like, yeah, is it possible to make a successful channel with kind of limited output and only doing the big passage videos and then maybe a couple, here's a boat tour, um, stuff like that. So I don't know. We'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah. By the way, shout out to West Marine. It's we have someone in our family who works there, and it is the spot. Like, it's where you go, and if there's ever a business that seems to be irreplaceable, it's a West Marine because you can't just go onto Amazon and buy the thing. There are times when you can, but when you need someone who has know-how, you got to go to West Marine. And this
Mhm.
is not an ad for those guys, but it's amazing when you think about how much we're getting away from brick and mortar business. That, yeah, having a place by a big harbor where you can get the right kind of scupper for your year, or someone there is like, no, 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 they made that engine in Long Beach that year. Or there's Long Beach, and then there was the Oakland one. You have the Long Beach one because you said you have a blue stripe on your boat. They only make, and you're like, whoa, and these guys are like, oh, and by the way, did you make sure you get that blue 15 tank? Because if you don't have that, that's your problem. And
Mhm.
you're looking around like, how did I find this lexicon of all things about your? But I mean, and I'm not exaggerating when I talk about these folks that know the boating industry with such detail. And these aren't people who necessarily sail, but they just love boats and they just know them. And West Marine is a place where you go and to do those things. That's a whole different conversation, but there's a whole industry of folks who are just great at helping you make your boat better. And then they know all the people that are the tertiary people who are like, oh, the best mast builder in America is just down the road. His name's Larry. You don't want to go get that. You want to go see Larry. Like, and no shit, Larry's the best mast builder in it. What? And it's the knowledge is so specific to that world. It's really remarkable. And so you could build a YouTube channel just talking to guys like Larry, who makes the best masts in the world, or Christian, who knows everything about this kind of motor and everything. But yeah, it's funny. It's also funny that you can have a successful channel and people would be desperate. Like I tried my heart out trying to make my channel be valuable, but my channel is very much like a lot of other channels, and so it's hard to stand out. But I was looking at your channel, I'm like, oh my God, you're doing great, and you have no videos. And so like here I am pouring my heart in it. It's just the craziest thing. No
I
jealousy for me,
well,
but
no,
it's
no,
just
no.
remarkable.
I feel bad about it. I mean, I have friends that have YouTube channels about sailing, and their videos are way better than mine.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and they have 100 videos, and none of them have like blown up, and the subscriber count has just been they had to fight tooth and nail for
it's
a
true.
couple thousand, and
It's so
I
hard.
just kind of
Yeah,
struck gold, and it was one of those like YouTube algorithm mystery things. It just happened to pluck mine out
yeah.
and give it
That
feed it
is
to a bunch of people. So
That is a good point. The algorithmic monster that no one seems here's the best way to solve the algorithm. Remove all of your ego and say, I want a full-time job where I just follow what the best advice is on YouTube and keep monitor it when it changes. And then you will have a job that is allows you to make a lot of money on YouTube creating things, but you will not in any way be distinct. You will be a person who works for a factory. It's a
right.
YouTube factory, right? And so you don't want to do that. I certainly don't want to do that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's crazy how happenstance. My friend, they took a video at a YouTube game, at a baseball game, yeah, youth league, and it went viral. And people steal that video now all the time, and they don't care. Like they weren't there. They didn't post that thing to make money. It just
Right.
happens to be one of the most watched videos on YouTube from a certain era. But it's that silly. It's just the one thing that whatever makes people listen, and then they comment and they act shitty towards people, and you're like, I'm making money on people acting shitty towards people. No thanks. I mean, I'll take the money, but no thanks.
Yeah, that's one side of like the troll comments is yeah, they're fueling more, they're
Yeah,
engaging and that actually has an effect. But
yeah.
the other thing is yeah, you know, one viral video doesn't necessarily mean, you know, continued success
Right.
and you really it's a slog, you got to keep like working at it
Yeah,
and putting out stuff and yeah, you strike gold once and then
yeah.
my friend James is a successful YouTube, a sailor,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I talked to him after this whole thing, kind of blew up or whatever, and he's like, "Yeah, if you want to keep this thing going, keep putting out content, but keep in mind, like your next video might not do anything at all,
Yeah, yeah.
And so yeah, I put out a boat tour video, and you know, it's only gonna get like a few thousand views, like for
Yeah.
for certain, because it's not the kind of video that would appeal to this broad audience and
Right.
go viral or anything.
Yeah.
But it's just funny to put up 2 videos and one gets 1,000,000 and one just gets
Mhm.
a couple a couple
It's so
thousand.
true. And then YouTube, like they're just like a little adorable robot. It's like, hey, you did a good one. Do another one like that. And you're like what? Like the thing I did 5 minutes before that, or the thing I did 5 minutes after that that you ignored? Like it'll be like tons of hits, zero, zero, an actual zero.
Mhm,
Like, how
mhm.
did this one go bananas until the second where they boo, flatline it and like, oh, that one's done. Will never be seen again. And then
Yeah.
this one did zero. And it's the same, it's like we'll take this 5 minutes and the next 5 minutes, same interview, same person, same everything. And one just, and so that's the thing about it. It's like if you pour your emotions into it and try to make a better video than the one you already made that did great, you can't reliably do it because the system just, it doesn't work that way. It
Yeah.
doesn't work that way.
Yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to look out for because it would the goalpost keeps moving
Yeah.
and, uh, at first it was, man, 100,000 views would be crazy, then 200 would be crazy, then 500,000 would be crazy, and then a
Yeah.
million would be crazy, right? And then when I hit a
Yeah.
million, it'll probably be like,
Yeah.
man, 2,000,000, like 1,000,000 is one
Right.
thing, but multiple millions, and you gotta watch out for that. I mean, I'm already like, sometimes I'll see the stats and I'm already just like, oh man, this thing's dead now. It's only gotten 30,000 views today.
Right.
um,
Yeah. Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
next one, what I there's a couple dark sides to this thing. One is that my screen time is like it's through the roof since this because
Right.
it's so fun and just sit there and watch the numbers go nuts and watch
Yes.
comments roll in or whatever. And that's one thing I don't like about it at all. And the other is, yeah, I'm gonna have to monitor my like, if I cross the Atlantic and make a video about it and I post it and it just doesn't blow up, I got to be like prepared that that's a totally real possibility. And I'm sure
Yeah.
it'll feel terrible for
And,
that.
and let me just say, anybody who's doing the YouTube thing or wants to or thinks about it, and whether it's sailing or rock climbing, whatever it is that you're going to do, you're 100% right. You can pour your heart into something, and you have to remove your heart from that thing and say, it's released. And you release it, and whatever it does, because you really have almost zero impact. And I just, before anybody even says it's not keywords, it's not SEO, it's not titling, like that stuff sort of matters, but if it satisfies whatever that thing is, and again, it's not keywords, then it's going to do well. And you can do the exact same video at another time of the day and have it just crap. So it's not 100% random, but it's a random enough that you should never invest like your well-being, your emotional well-being into the survival of a YouTube channel because it's a very dangerous thing to do.
Yeah, it's a fickle. Yeah, it's funny
Yeah.
because I'm a musician too, and I spent
Uh-huh.
a lot of years in my life, you know, um, wanting to get successful in music, and that's an even harder thing to break into,
Oh my
and
gosh.
it
Yeah.
never happened for us, and um, it's like, yeah, the same thing, putting your heart into something and just the horrible disappointment of it just not doing anything, and
Right. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am hesitant to get in bed with another mistress like that.
I know. I know. Yeah. Don't even worry about it. Because even guys like Rick Beato who have really incredible channels. I saw him live at an event one time, and he brought another of his musician buddies. These guys have figured it out. They make a ton of money doing YouTube and making videos, and they're like, all you do is you chase that next hit. And I
Mhm.
don't mean necessarily hit like hit video, all of the next hit of the dopamine rush and the next thing. And then when it doesn't happen and you're like, oh my God, then you obsess about it. And you crater while you obsess and try to figure out and you rejigger the title and try to find that thing that's gonna make it go. And
Yeah.
it's they weren't saying positive things about that experience as they talked about it,
Mhm.
as they acknowledged it, but you could see them being crazy about it. And I'm not calling Rick Beato crazy, but I am saying they'll tell you it's negative and then they'll tell you about the process of why it's so negative, and as they're doing that you can see them thinking about how to like deal with that thing and it's like a puzzle you want to solve, and it becomes insidious in terms of screen time and not being on a boat, being at a terminal trying to figure out how to crack the code on YouTube, and that's just not worth it.
Yeah. it feels, it's almost like gambling or something. It's like you get
Totally.
these
Yeah.
hits and they're like, you want another one, and it was like downright euphoric at one point. It
Hmm.
was kind of surreal and euphoric because yeah, I remember I was taking a walk with my girlfriend and at the height of when it was getting all these views
Hmm.
it just kept I couldn't stop pulling out my phone every 30 minutes or something to
It's
update.
crazy, right?
Oh, now
Yeah.
we're at this much. That's crazy.
Yeah. And ultimately,
Yeah,
who cares, right? Like,
exactly.
and even though there's money and you can't believe it, the money is not even worth that, you know? I mean, it's not that much money.
It's
It,
not.
if you were to say the number, you'd be like, you made how much on a video? Yeah, 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 on that one. But then the next one and the next one, all of a sudden you realize how hard you're working per hour. And you're like, it's still not worth it at
No,
all.
that's exactly right. When you
Yeah.
see it, you get a bunch of videos in a short time. It's a number that you're like, oh wow, that's cool. And then, but yeah, then you realize, oh, I'd need a viral hit every every
Right.
2 weeks, to make
Yeah.
this profitable.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
forget it.
Well, listen, we talked for over an hour, man. That was great. It's really interesting, and I love your insights on everything from YouTubing to sailing. It's been great. So, what do you want to wrap up with? Everybody, definitely go check out Colin's website, or not his website, but YouTube channel, where he pours his heart and soul into these videos, and you definitely watch them, or he'll feel sad. So, go watch those. Colin.Denker. You guys know how to do all that stuff. I'm not going to patronize you, act like you don't know. But what do you want to say in closing, man, before we wrap this thing up?
Ooh, I don't know. I wish I should have thought about something to say. I don't know. I'm just
Yeah.
happy to be on the same podcast as Stuart Copeland.
That's right. And Andy Summers. Both those guys have been
Oh,
on.
did
So
he
there
do
you
one too?
go.
By the
Yeah,
way, I
yeah.
really, I listened to the Jerome episode, and I'm halfway through the U2 versus Nirvana.
Oh, yeah.
I grew up on both, so
Oh,
I'm really
yeah.
enjoying that. Yeah,
You
very
know
cool.
what's interesting about that? So everybody who's watching, we used to do, and there's such a lot of work, and they don't work on YouTube, so we don't do it. But there's these things called album fights. You would take two albums and you'd smash them together round by round. So track one is round one, and then you'd have judges give their opinion about the fight. And it's a real fun way to look at it and like to see like what Colin would find out about a song or what I'd find out. And it's a real neat thing to do. And the thing that I figured out when we did Nirvana versus U2 is U2 is a seasoned professional world grade band, and Nirvana is working off of a high school kid's poetry book,
Mhm.
and the amount of stuff available. I'm not saying Nirvana's Nevermind album isn't great. It's great, but when you were going track for track, the weakness starts to show up when you're facing a gigantic giant like U2. And even if you love Nirvana more, you're like, actually, yeah, that song isn't actually all that good. And then the other, like the worst U2 song is just going to be so good because they have the time and the money to do it. And in general, when you look at all these albums and you see what makes the art, it was a fascinating exercise to go through and to hear things that you'd never heard from a song that you've listened to 1,000 times. It's a wonderful journey.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, there's
Yeah,
so
man.
many ways to skin that cat, and it's a philosophical,
Yeah,
eye of the observer situation that it's just
yeah,
fun to listen to,
yeah,
a couple guys talk about. You guys had some really like nice, like I didn't expect a music podcast, but you had these like deep insights that I was like, oh, this is
yeah.
quality, yeah, quality work here. So
I mean,
kudos.
including like using actual Greek words like pathos and all that kind of stuff, and talking about different kinds of love represented in an album, and like someone
Mhm.
spent time, hours writing these notes, and yeah, it is a neat adventure. And thanks for listening, man. That's cool that you did that. I can appreciate I can appreciate you doing that and what that means. But all right, so I'm going to shut up and let everybody go. But I appreciate
All right.
you. Come back anytime you want, Colin. And all of you all, I will see you all later. I've got another show to put up probably later on today. That's for Porch Fest in Benicia. That's this weekend. So if you're going to go, it's free to go. There's VIP tickets. You guys should check it out. You just go to Porch Fest. It's super simple. You guys can figure out how to look up Porch Fest. And if you don't go to Benicia's, there's all kinds of Porch Fests. So go see these things. These are live. musicians playing, in the downtown area at businesses and some of the prominent homes in the area. Benicia especially has this, but Porch Fest is coming up in Benicia if you want to go. I may be up there myself, so go check that out or check out your local Porch Fest. All right, stay right there, Colin. I'll be back to you. Everybody else, I'll see